Florence Esheloni MP.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Prime Minister. You mentioned that child poverty is central to that. For every child to be lifted out of poverty, Prime Minister, will you agree that they need to live in a safe, warm, secure home? Remember the tragic case of Awab Ishak, the 2-year-old that died in Rochdale in, frankly, unsuitable, uninhabitable conditions of damp and mould. And it's welcome that the new government has set its priority on tackling this issue. Prime Minister, when this new regulation is highlighted and brought in later this year, are you confident that this legislation on tackling damp and mould will be enforceable?
Yes, I think firstly it's really important, and thank you for highlighting it, because it was a terrible case that in this country, in these times, anybody could die in those circumstances. So that's why we made the pledge to put it into law. We've put it into law and we will. I don't think we can simply say that that law on its own will do all the work that is needed. And that is why we've strengthened what we've put in place for standards in housing across the board, including checks on landlords to do things like electricity safety checks as well. So yes, I'm confident that it's the right law. Yes, I think it is enforceable and will be enforced. But I don't think in any of these fields to do with either housing or poverty, there's one silver bullet that solves all the problems.
Because one of the issues, Prime Minister, you may be aware, is that a number of landlords, including local authorities, are saying that they're struggling in terms of the funding and enforcement to carry out those necessary checks. We've heard that the courts, we know that there's a backlog in the courts in terms of residents bringing forward those cases. So just coming back to that enforceability, Prime Minister, as a lawyer, you know, for anything to be enforceable, it has to have the right protection around it. So just wanting to know if there's been discussions and that interdepartmental discussions to make sure that these cases are escalated when tenants bring them before the courts.
Yes, there have been. And one of the ways in which I've set up the work of government is to have key ministers on key commitments reporting in to me for a stocktake on a regular basis, where we go through progress, what measures are in place, etc. And housing, as you would expect, is one of those. There are 6 areas where we have these regular stocktakes, and housing is one of them. So the Deputy Prime Minister and her team come into number 10, and we have a session where we go through a number of different issues, but decent standards and housing and enforceability is among them.
Okay. You'll recall last time we met, Prime Minister, I asked you about the government's decision to freeze the local housing allowance. And coming back to the issue around child poverty, this is an area which is keeping many children and their families in poverty because they cannot afford the rent. The recent data from the local government association responsible for all councils shows that there's a funding gap of around £7 million over the last 5 years. This is a key area pushing many people more into poverty. So I asked you again, Prime Minister, do you think that that was the right decision from a government that's ambitious on tackling child poverty?
Look, I think I defend the decisions we've made. Obviously, we head into the autumn. We will get to another budget. There'll be a chance to look again across the board. But we certainly made the right decision first time round. I think I'd also emphasise something I touched on last time, which is in the end, with housing, we need to build and make available more housing across the board. There simply isn't enough, and that
but
means
the starts, Prime Minister, you may have seen are quite low. We're not building those houses quickly enough, and we will see more people and more children in poverty. We can't build our way out of this crisis. So in the interim, what more can the government do to help alleviate that poverty?
Well,
that families
as I
are
say,
facing?
there'll be a child poverty strategy which we're setting out in the autumn. We will go into the budget in the autumn as well, and alleviating poverty is a priority of mine. I do think that we need to build more, though, and we have to build more because we've had a problem for many years of not building enough social and affordable housing in this country. And until we crack that problem, we will never be able to get to the fundamental roots of the failures here. And that's why, on that issue in particular, I'm pressing the Deputy Prime Minister very hard.